pull them off the hill and slam them in the chutes, and those horses are all bloodied up in the face. They're smacking against the chutes. They're freaking out. Like, I've never done it before, so I'm sitting up there frozen, like blacked out. All these random dudes that were there with the stock were helping me put my saddle on.
These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. For those of you out there that are truck guys like me, I want to talk to you about one of our newest sponsors, Decked. If you don't know Decked, they make bomb-proof drawer systems to keep your gear organized and safely locked away in the back of your truck. Clothes, rifles, packs, kill kits can all get organized and at the ready so you don't get to your hunting spot and waste time trying to find stuff. We all know that guy. Don't be that guy. They also have a line of storage cases that fit perfectly in the drawers. We use them for organizing ammunition, knives, glassing equipment, extra clothing, and camping stuff. You can get a 2-drawer system for all dimensions of full-size truck beds, or a single drawer system that fits mid-size truck beds. And, maybe best of all, they're all made in the USA. So, get decked and get after it. Check them out at decked.com. Shipping is always free. I mean, that's fine, right? If you have a podcast where you don't occasionally hear a dog barking, is that even worth listening to?
Is it even a real one?
True.
Yeah. Well, it is a toasty day here in La Grande, Oregon, and I'm sitting here with Emily and Josie. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah. Getting ready for hunting season?
Yep. Yep, gearing up.
What kind of tags do we have in the family?
Archery any bull.
Archery any bull for...
Yeah, bull and buck tag.
Bull and buck
tags, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Mule deer, whitetail?
Mule deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could only hunt one of those ever again, what would it be?
Mule deer.
Yeah,
Why?
mule deer.
I just like them better.
Yeah.
They're just high country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the whitetails look kind of goofy. I do.
I mean,
they got a little head. Mule deer have big old ears. They're cute.
Yeah.
It's true.
I'm worried about our mule deer.
I know. They're getting scared off. Did you see? There's usually like 4 or 5 bucks that hang out in our yard, and one of them's just huge because nobody can get them. You know.
I love a good yard buck.
Yeah. They just hang out.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon, like why these deer hang out in town so much. Like, it's interesting. And you talk to the Forest Service, and they're always wanting to close roads, and they're saying that the vehicle traffic is disrupting deer. And then you go to town, and it's like there's deer everywhere.
Right.
Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. So what do y'all do for work?
I am a barber, so I cut men's hair all day long, all day, every day.
And what is the difference between a barber and like a haircutter or a hairstylist?
I don't want to do any of the fancy stuff. I don't want to do color or any of that. So I just kind of stick to the basics of just men's haircuts. And, they range from like razor skin fades to just your regular old buzz cut all day. Yeah, it's pretty cool though, because I always say it's hard to speak man. Because you got to get what they're really wanting out of them. You know what I mean? Or just kind of guess and hope it's right.
I feel like we're more simple.
Yeah, but it's usually I don't know, they just cut it,
Yeah.
So I just kind of figure out from there, and guess and hope that it works out good.
I'm a little bit guilty of that. And I come over here to get my hair cut, and this is about an hour and a half away from my home, and that's where I met you, was at your barber shop there. And Josie, your mom owns that shop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's cool to go to an old school barber shop because that feels like something that's disappearing. And there flat out isn't one in my whole county. And there was, for a long time, and there's one kind of shaky-handed World War II vet.
Yeah, I remember. I hear a lot about him.
Yeah. And it was like a rite of passage to get your hair cut by Bunk, and it might have some washboards in it, but he didn't even ask you what you wanted. Yeah. You came in, you sat down, you got your hair cut, you paid the man and left.
Yeah. Well, that's what so many of these guys in the older generations are used to here. Yeah. And so that's a lot of the reason why it's like, oh, I don't know, just cut it. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure it out then, I guess. But it's kind of adjusting to, because, it all like evolves. Like some people think a buzz cut is one thing or another thing, and they all have a different, idea of what their words mean. And so it kind of takes time and a lot of hair cutting to get through and be like, okay, this is what they actually want. This is what they actually mean.
Well,
know what I mean?
Let's educate people a little bit. So what should somebody come in and ask for? Like, what's the correct language to use? How would you prefer somebody communicate with you when they want to get their hair cut?
Honestly, everybody cuts a little bit different. So, you can say it a whole bunch of different ways. Usually, though, the base would be, how the clippers have a number. So it's either you say clippers or scissors all over, because some guys just want scissors all over, which is fine. And that's what a lot of the older guys are used to, is just a scissor cut. But if you want numbers on the sides, just kind of have a base idea, like skin, not skin, how high you want it, and then how much you think you want left on the top, and what you do with it on the daily. Because I don't want to cut it, pushed all the way to the side, and then you don't go home and do that, and then you go home and you're like, oh man, I hate this. You know what I mean? So I got to kind of base it off of what I think the effort they're going to put into it. You know what I mean? Like, are you actually going to style it every day, or are you going to throw a hat on? You know what I mean?
Now, one of the beautiful things about an audio-only podcast is people are right now imagining what you are in their minds, right? And they're like, okay, we got a gal that's interested in archery hunting mule deer, and she cuts men's hair, and we're going to get into it more. But you're also a ranch saddle bronc rider. Yeah. All right, so that's going to confuse the issue a little bit.
I'm kind of all over the place.
Josie, what do you do?
I'm a shovel operator at the log yard.
Yeah.
Yep. Day number 3 now. So.
What kind of shovel?
It's a big John Deere shovel.
Okay.
Just feeding the mill, sorting piles and stuff, high decking.
Most people are imagining a flat piece of metal with a wooden handle.
Yeah. I do. I am too. It's all right.
No. Excavator,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big machines.
Big machines, yeah.
Okay.
Operating dozer, water truck, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So with your excavator, do you have like a big claw on the front of it and you're moving logs?
Yeah, big grapple.
Yeah.
It's free swinging. And you go over, you pick up logs, and you drop them into the conveyor. And then the high decking, it's kind of the same thing. It's just the machines will bring in the logs, and you stack them up. It's big equipment, and it's kind of fun. So
what kind of trees?
Everything.
Yeah.
We get log trucks all day. Yeah, pine, white fir, red fir, tamarack, everything. So. And
are you a stud mill? Are you making plywood?
No, I'm in the log yard.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually used to be worked at the mill in Elgin about 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what did that mill produce?
Studs, plywood. They got
Okay.
the plywood there, and then I went on construction. So
yeah. Most people don't ever think about mills. They don't think about loggers. They don't think about log truck drivers. But every wall that's standing up around them is made from the labor of people who are out there working pretty hard in tough conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Does your excavator have air conditioning?
No.
Yeah.
It does not.
It's a little warm.
The door's open.
Yeah.
Got the windows open, so.
It's pretty dusty.
Yeah, it's pretty dusty.
Are you doing anything to protect your lungs?
No.
Yeah.
Winging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going for it.
Yeah. Tough job.
Yeah.
Blue collar.
Blue collar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, her dad works in a mill too down in Willamina.
Yeah. He's been a saw filer for like 20-something years.
Now the saw filers, those are respected people.
Yeah, he's
big time.
It's so
Yeah.
funny. His name is Garth, and they call him Grumpy Garth because he always looks pissed. He's like, I'm just focused. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's true. Coming to Garth's defense here, a lot of what gets described as RBF, know, my dad very much included, you know, and people have accused him of that enough times that he had to look up what it meant.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it just means that you're focused. That means I'm really paying attention.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that look comes across as grumpy.
Yeah.
But what does a saw filer do?
I know he repairs a lot of saws and everything for the mill because he's one of the, longest standing ones there.
Yeah.
So he gets up to like 80 to 100 extra saws a day on top of what he should be getting. So pretty much anytime a log comes through with anything imperfected on it that busts a saw or does something, he's the one like welding and repairing and sharpening all day long. He's the one like making sure that all the saws and everything in the mill keeps running with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're keeping everything sharp.
Yeah.
Sharp and running.
Yeah.
And when a mill shuts down, any portion of it, they start losing money really quickly. Mm-hmm. So that whole organism that has so many different moving pieces has to keep moving all the time for it to keep functioning because the margins aren't huge on this stuff. And these trees anymore, because there's so few mills, are coming from a long ways away. So then the people who are growing those trees, who are cutting those trees, who are trucking those trees, and getting them to the mill, they don't have the margins that they did in the 90s when there was mills all over the place. But now, unfortunately, we're importing a lot of timber and stuff like that. Our forests are in pretty bad condition. Like the Wallowa Whitman here has more natural mortality every year than it has new growth.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a genius to see where that goes. And, we've got all these terrible fires right now, and it's a whole thing. But what I'm trying to get to is that lumber mills are very important, and it's something that benefits all of us, and it's a tremendous renewable resource. If you're concerned about carbon, that tree pulls carbon out of the atmosphere and turns that carbon into fiber, right? And that fiber is rigid enough that we can use it in all kinds of different ways. So now the carbon is sequestered. It's stored. And as long as you turn that into a product that has resilience, whether it's your cupboards or your studs or paper, whatever, then that carbon is out of the atmosphere and is being used in a way that benefits people in the environment. If it doesn't, if it dies in the woods and dissolves down into the soil, then that carbon's released into the atmosphere again. If it's burned, the carbon's released in the atmosphere again. So kind of whichever side of it you're on, if you're kind of on the left side of things and you're more environmental and you're concerned about carbon and you're concerned about global warming, like you should be very pro logging. And if you're pro blue collar and you understand that this is a renewable resource and you want people out there in the woods working, you should be pro logging.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's not like just not understanding the process well enough. Like they need to get with the times a little bit.
Ignorance is a thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we know those people live on the other side of the state, so.
Yes,
I
they
know,
do.
and that's where, like, Willamina is where I came from, and that's where my dad and mom still live, and we have 3 mills in that little town the size of Elgin.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, they deal with a lot of stuff. Like, remember that timber unity thing that they had to do?
Yep.
That's still, like, people are still struggling with that over there.
The Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by Nick's Handmade Boots, a family-owned company in Spokane, Washington. This year, Nick's is celebrating its 60th anniversary of making quality work boots for men and women in America. I recently visited their factory to see the boot-making process from start to finish. As a rancher myself, it was a rewarding experience for me to see, feel, and smell the quality leathers processed in 100-year-old tanneries throughout America. This leather is cut, sewn, lasted, and sold by skilled craftsmen before ending up on the feet of folks ready for a day of honest work. I'm currently wearing my Nick's Boots Game Breakers on the 6 Ranch as I work cattle, plant my garden, build fence, and prepare for the upcoming hunting season. Nick's has a full assortment of men's and women's work boots to serve wildland firefighters, ranchers, tradespeople, military personnel, and anyone else who values quality footwear made in America. Visit nicksboots.com today to find your next pair of quality American-made work boots. Add a pair of boots and a work belt to your cart and use the code 6RANCH, that's the number 6 and the word ranch, to receive the belt for free.
So you moved from one Grand Ronde to the other.
Yeah, literally. I didn't even know this was a Grand Ronde until I was like, oh, the hospital's like Grand Ronde, whatever. I'm like, it's spelled different, but it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this Grand Ronde, everybody thinks it's, like big round, but it's a big wheel. Do you know that? Yeah. But your Grand Ronde from Willamina, is that an Indian tribe?
Yeah, that's the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the Spirit Mountain Casino and all that going on. My mom's worked for that tribe for like 25 years, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about what ranch bronc is compared to saddle bronc. Mm-hmm. So, saddle bronc, people are probably a little bit more familiar with from like professional rodeo, where you've got a cowboy who's holding on to a single rein, and they're in a bronc saddle with the stirrups looking a lot different, tilted way forward, and then there's going to be no saddle horn, right? A totally different situation. It's a really beautiful ride. If they do it right, a lot of times it's little tiny fellas who are good at it, I remember the first time I met Billy Etbauer, that guy's like 5'2". Yeah. He's like the Tom Cruise of cowboys. But he's a tremendous saddle bronc rider. Right. I think he's a five-time world champion or something like that. What is ranch bronc?
So ranch bronc is the original bronc riding. So like saddle bronc and bareback and everything comes from its perfected versions of ranch bronc. So ranch bronc is more of the traditional on the range cowboy breaking colts type of thing. So instead of an association saddle like the saddle bronc where they don't have a horn and they're all pushed forward and it's supposed to sit up on the withers of the horse, you're using just an everyday saddle that you cowboy in. So I ride in a slick fork, which is a saddle without swells up front. And
but there's buck and rolls on it.
Yeah, I put buck and rolls on it because I personally like having something there.
Sure.
Swells hurt. So I'm like, buck and rolls all the way.
Yeah.
The bigger the better with them, honestly. Everybody has their preference, though. Like some guys will ride in swell forks. Some people will ride in bear traps, which are those ones with the high back. And then the swells that come over, and that scares the living hell out of me, so I stay away.
My granddad had a bear trap saddle tree, and he rodeoed for a Sote in high school, back in the 1940s. There's some great pictures of him back then.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I sat in that bear trap once, and I was like, no,
they're not terrifying.
I'm not coming off the horse. Like I can ride the horse, but if he ends up coming over backwards, I'm riding him backwards into the dirt.
No, seriously, and I'm all about I want to do it. And I want to get out there and be on that horse, but I also don't want to die. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make it to where I cannot get hung up. Because you got to be really careful with your equipment because that's what's keeping you safe out there.
Yep.
And so as long as you do everything right and don't skip any steps, you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Even if that horse comes over backwards, I ride in oxbow stirrups, so they're that thin and then about 2 times wider than my feet, so that there's no way I'm getting hung in that.
Yep.
I even baby powder the inside of my boots, everything. I wear 2 sizes too big in boots just in case, because you're already risking your life out there anyway, so why make it?
Taping your boots on like I did when I was bareback riding.
Well, that's different. You got nothing to get hung up on when you're bareback. I would love to try bareback, actually. I want to try it.
I really couldn't encourage you strongly enough to not do that.
I know, but it looks so fun. And I had a guy, I was cutting his hair the other day, and he's like, what size hand do you got? And I'm like, I don't really know. They're long, I'm tall, so. And he's like, I might have a rigging for you.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool. I shouldn't because I technically fractured my back in 2 spots 2 months ago, but.
We're going to get into the injury segment of this story.
Yeah. But ranch bronc's cool because you have the option of 2-point contact, which is cool. I mean, everybody thinks it's easier because you have 2 points of contact, but in all reality, the saddle bronc horses have patterns. They buck in a pattern. They buck
if they're
hard
good
and
ones,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, if they're worth anything, they're bucking hard and they're bucking straight in a line. And so ranch broncs are just basically, sorry, Grandma, the shitters of the bucking horses. They just do whatever. There's no predicting what they're going to do. They're going to flop all over the place, spin around, do everything they possibly can to get you off of there because they're not bred to have an actual pattern. So that's why you have the 2-hand contact, is because it's supposed to be more like you're breaking colts. So you have your one rein hand and then you have your rope hand, and then you're supposed to be able to move your body in a different way than like saddle bronc, because the saddle is so much different. The saddle bronc saddle is like made specifically to hold you in with your legs, and working saddles are just saddles. You know what I mean? So you got to work a little bit harder to keep your butt down in there.
So for me to bring this in for people who aren't familiar with a lot of this language, the saddle that you're riding bucking horses in is the same saddle that you could go out and cowboy in and work as a buckaroo somewhere, work as a cowboy somewhere. And if you rode straight out of that arena, you could go and rope off of it. You could brand off of it. Like
multi-use.
It's the most honest way that you can go about doing it. And the 2-hand contact thing, I love. I always, and I've been in a rodeo family. I've grown up in rodeo. Rodeo's been part of my whole life in one way or another. I've always thought it was dumb to try to ride one-handed. Like, what cocky, ignorant piece of crap came up with that idea, and then we all just went along with it.
I know. We're like, I guess that's how we do it
now. So dumb. Like, let's just use one hand.
Well,
also, I'm going to use my weaker hand for some reason.
Let me just hold on with my weaker hand. Yeah, no, literally it doesn't make sense. But at the same
and I'm only going to use 3 fingers.
Because
that makes sense too.
Let me just lock 3 in there. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. The first time I got on a ranch bronc, I didn't believe the guys. They were like, oh, put a pinky in your rein. And I'm like, I need to do that? I need to do that? And they're like, yeah, you need to do that. And I put my pinky in there, and I have never been so scared to lose a finger in my life. I won't do it now because I saw a guy like it, breaks and then comes like, if you get caught in your rein.
Yeah, that's not smart.
And I'm like, why would you do that? I'm like, it's already hard enough with 3 fingers, and then stick one in the freaking, no thanks.
Pass. If you're going to come off the horse, the pinky's probably not going to be the problem. Like, something else is going on.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not going to be the thing holding me in there.
Yeah.
That is not.
Josie, do you rodeo?
No. No. I'm barely learning the lingo right now.
Okay.
So,
He's like still adjusting to the lingo.
I
put him on my horse.
I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
That's a good, safe place to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good. It's so funny. We were going to cattle barons in Pendleton, and I was the only gal entered up there, and I rode both nights, and brought him the first night, and then him and the kiddos the next night. And it was so funny. He's toting around the kiddos and my purse, and I got my saddle and my chaps, and all the guys were like, I've never seen this before. It was pretty cool, though. We went to the Pendleton Hat Co., and the guy was being like, damn, that's like a real man right there. And I don't know if you've been to the Pendleton Hat Company ever.
I haven't.
You need to go and see that guy sometime. He is so cool. I can't remember his name, and I feel so bad, but I'm horrible with names. But he's the coolest older guy I've ever met in my life. I was the only gal riding, and he saw my Ukiah rodeo poster. I don't know if you've seen that one where I'm upside down. Yep. And he saw me. He's like, that's not you, is it? I'm like, oh, yeah. So he hooked me up with a 100X beaver felt for that ride in cattle barons. He hooked me up with.
That's a big sign of respect.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He put his patch on everything. Yeah. And hooked me up with swag with his logo on it and everything. He's like, you're riding for me now. I'm like, yes, sir. He's a pretty cool guy, but that was pretty cool. Off topic, but.
I'll have to go over and do a show with him sometime.
No, seriously, he is the funniest dude ever. He'll just crack jokes the whole time, and he'll shape you up a hat and stuff, hook you up. They're really good people over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, a cowboy hat's a big deal.
It is.
It says a lot about who you are, and it's something that you'll keep your whole life. And they're expensive, and they're.
It's that maroon one. Actually.
It's a meaningful thing, and I can look at somebody for 3 seconds and get a pretty good idea what part of the country they come from based on their cowboy hat.
You really can. Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a trend on something. I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram or what, and it was like, one of my bad traits is I'm gonna not really judge somebody by their hat shape, but You know what I mean?
I'm judging.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm 100%
okay.
judging.
Yeah.
Especially the flat brim buckaroo hats, silk wild rag. Like, son, get out of here.
You're judging. Oh God, it's like half the dudes over here.
No time for that. I've got no time for the buckaroo fashion show.
Oh, really? You don't like it? Oh
No.
man, I know. I don't really
divas.
play. I don't
like
really
those
play
guys
it either.
know the language for how they want their haircut for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is one guy that I like genuinely respect that looks like that, and that's the guy that brings those bucking horses, Glenn Shelley. He's a cool guy.
But
everybody else, though, I'm like, oh, okay. Do you need all that silver? I don't know.
It can go either way because I think there's some extremely handy buckaroos.
Yeah.
Some extremely handy buckaroos. But there's also some buckaroo fashionistas that I just do not have time for.
It's a little much, yeah. With like all of the everything. I don't like Armidas. Like the chaps with they're short. They cut off like right here in their fringe and then their fringe all the way across.
Okay.
And that's a very buckaroo thing.
Yeah.
And that's a very Pacific Northwest thing. Like everybody wears that kind of chap. And so it's funny because I have Arizona bells because I like the bells and I like how they actually protect my entire leg.
Yeah.
And everybody flicks me shit all the time at the rodeos. Oh, are you from Arizona or something? Like, where are you from? I'm like, I want to actually protect my legs, dude. I don't know what you mean. Like, Armidas are covering half your leg. What are you doing?
Yeah. You know, we kind of get separated into like chaps and chinks, right? Mm-hmm. So the chinks were more working, more like maybe you're in the brush or the timber a little bit more, a little bit shorter. And then the longer chaps and stuff, we'd see those, I guess, a little bit more often with like the cold weather cowboys and some of the canyon cowboys that were a little bit thornier in what they were doing. But yeah, I did a show with Bjorn Skovlin a while ago about cowboying in Argentina. Mm-hmm. And they were catching all these wild cattle in crazy thorn country. And they had like full-on rawhide armor, including rawhide cowboy hats and rawhide armor for their horses as well.
That's cool.
And it looked like they were going into battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty wild.
When you got a use for it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's like tapaderos. And for folks that don't know, big long tapaderos are like a big long piece of leather that protects the front of the stirrup, can keep your foot from going through the stirrup. But people who are really handy with them will use them to sort cattle because it's an extra extension of their leg that they can flick out in front of a cow and get those cows to rate and turn a little bit more. But then you get guys that just put taps on because they think taps are cool.
Yeah, I know. That's why I haven't gotten them. I don't have a reason, but they're badass. I want to. It's taken everything in me not to.
I think you just got to figure out how to sort cattle with them, and then it's okay.
I know. I need somebody over here that I can just hop on whatever. I was supposed to go to a couple brandings, but I didn't end up being able to go.
Yeah.
'Cause I just moved here like a year ago over here, so I don't know anyone over here for that. You know what I mean?
Okay, so people want to know, like, how does a haircut and barber get into bronc riding?
I've been growing up around rodeo and everything my whole life. Been around horses my whole life. I ranched a little bit in Wyoming only for like a couple months. I don't really count it. And then Southern Oregon a little bit. And I've been to brandings like my whole life. And so I've been helping break colts for a couple of different people. I had a guy in Pendleton that I was getting on 2- and 3-year-olds for and everything. And I was kind of getting cocky with it. I'm like, hey, I'm sitting these crow hops. I bet you I could hop on a bucking horse. You know what I mean? I'm like, not a lot of girls are doing that. I might as well try it. So I got on at Warm Springs Reservation in Central Oregon. And that was the worst one to start on probably because those are ponies. They pull right off the hill.
Yeah.
They pull them off the hill and slam them in the chutes. And those horses are all bloodied up in the face. They're smacking against the chutes. They're freaking out. Like, I've never done it before, so I'm sitting up there frozen, like blacked out. All these random dudes that were there with the stock were helping me put my saddle on and everything. And I'd never done it before, so I'm like, I'm just going to wing it, I guess. And I almost made it for 8. I wish I would have been that person that's like, yeah, I covered my first bronc, but no, it's way harder than you'd think it was. And then I blacked out and stood up in front of the pickup man, got ran over.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was good. And then I was like, I think I'm addicted, actually. So
well, I mean,
just kind of stick to it.
You want to talk about intense feelings, stepping down into a chute on a horse. That's about as intense and
lot.
locked in as you can get.
Your first 10 or 11, you feel like you're going to throw up the whole time. At least I did.
I did throw up. I
Did
threw
you?
up all the time.
Oh,
all the time.
I could not. But,
Yeah.
I really felt like I was going to every time.
Yeah, because bareback was the first event, right?
Yeah.
So while the national anthem was playing and,
Yeah.
all the girls are out in the arena with rodeo flags or whatever, I'd be barfing in a trash can behind the chutes.
And all those horses are slamming against the chutes while the song's going and stuff. That's a lot.
Or they're just standing there because they know they're about to own you.
Yeah.
Like they're getting their mind right too.
Yeah.
And talking about blacking out, one of my first bareback wasn't a ride, but first time out. I didn't have the latigo tight enough, and my rigging came off, and I was still riding my rigging straight down into the arena, as if the horse was still under me.
You're still there, just hanging out. Like, oh God. Well, I've only ever had my saddle come off once, and it was that Ukiah ride, and it was because I was riding in that saddle out front of my house, which is like $100 Facebook Marketplace, like 100-year-old ranch cutter, gross. Should never have touched a horse with that. But the back's about like an inch and a half tall, and then the whole tree goes up. So it was like the worst possible situation for me. I don't know why I did it.
It's just trying to eject you the entire time.
Yeah, I was literally just had a death wish, I guess. But so I cinched it on that horse, and I was like, oh, I got it. I'll cinch it. I got it. Like, don't pull my cinch, because everybody cinches. My horse is too tight. I like my horse to breathe. Yeah. Because if you pull the air out of that, it's not going to buck. It's not going to do what you want it to do. Right. It's just going to squeal and go all over the place. And I want this horse to have the best trip it can possibly get,
Because the horse is getting half the score.
Exactly. And a lot of these guys, especially with ranch bronc, y'all get your, quit doing that. Because I'm not saying I know everything, but quit doing that, where they just rake that horse and they have no air left in their lungs. Like, that horse is literally that other half of that score. Why are you doing everything you can to get it not to buck? That's the point of it. Because
they think that if it bucks less, that they're going to have a chance of riding it, but it's not going to buck correctly.
No, and then you're going to get this squealy, ugly-ass ride. Even if you do cover, you're going to get this ugly ride, and you're going to score maybe a 65, max. There's no why would you? Anyways, I don't like when the guys pull my cinches. If I ask somebody to pull my cinch, I double-check it before I go out, because I don't like it. But
Is Josie pulling cinches for you?
No, but he held my horse last time in the shoot. He was I was measuring my reins, and the shoot boss guys John and Glenn were up there, and they were telling him how to hold his head straight and everything. So he got to hold the head straight and be up in the chutes with me. So that was fun.
I'm learning.
Yeah, he's learning.
So Josie, how's it feel for you watching your lady get down in here and do something that's legitimately dangerous like that?
It's a little sketchy sometimes. I mean, I think she's more nervous than me. So
it's
yeah, I'll just watch, and I mean, I think getting involved a little more last time was pretty sweet. So kind of I don't know, it looks intense, it looks fun. So I mean, I don't know if I want to do it for sure, because it might break me. So
well, let's talk about the injury part. What kind of injuries have you dealt with so far?
Literally only the one I'm struggling with now.
Just the broken
surprisingly
back?
Yeah, and I didn't even know I got it.
Yeah.
I was it happened, I guess, when I was at a bronc school with Brittany Miller up in Spokane, Washington, or Cheney, or whatever that town is called, I guess. But we were up there, and I got on 5 horses in a row, because I was like, I'm going to cover this one. Well, I got on the same horse 3 times too. And it's this big buckskin. I was like, I'm going to cover him. And he'd get so much power behind me, and he'd get stronger every time we bucked him out. You'd think he'd get tired, and he just got stretched out. So he's like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
And
because they like it.
Yeah, it's his job. That's his thing. You know what I mean? They try to use him as a saddle horse. Didn't work out. It turns out he likes bucking, So he's perfectly fine in the chute. Perfect angel. And then as soon as he's out there, it's his thing. It's his game. But I came off, and I landed the worst way. I didn't come over the front because I pushed myself off the side, but I landed on my back with my arms and my legs up in the air. And I tried to stand up, and this guy that brought the bucking stock was running at me, and I was wobbling all over the place trying to get myself up and walking. He's like, whoa, slow down. And he tried to grab me, and I'm like, don't grab me, because I will cry. You know what I mean? And I don't want to cry. So I kept wobbling away and walking, and I couldn't pick up my saddle, and I was like, what is up with this? And the paramedics and stuff were there, and I'm like, no, it's fine, I'll just walk it off. So I'm walking back and forth in all my gear still, and by the time I got in the rig and started driving back here, which is like 3.5 hours, something like that, I like couldn't put my back against the driver's seat. I was like, oh my God, this hurts. And I got home and Jose was here, and I had a lump on my back about the size of 2 softballs. And I was like, oh, like that'll go away. It'll be fine. I could not lay down. I couldn't walk. I couldn't lift stuff up for like a week. It felt like I was cutting hair, like all hunched over. And I was like, oh, it'll go away. It'll go away. I'll just wake up and it won't be there. And it did go away eventually, but I was still hurting. And I was like, oh, it's fine, whatever. So I went and rode at cattle barons 2 nights in a row. And then that next week I was like, damn, I'm hurting bad. Like I think I need adjusted or something. I'd never been to a chiropractor before. So I went to a chiropractor in town, and he x-rayed me because I was like, dude, my legs like fall asleep in my sleep. And like, you know, that numb feeling where it wakes you up, like if you ever get that, where it's like the pins and needles, and then it would like wake me up at night. And I was like, what the heck is happening? I can't even lay down. And he's like, so did you know you have 2 fractures in your lower back? I was like, no, I didn't. So I had 2 fractures, and 2 of my discs were slipping forward. And so my hips were all sorts of out of alignment. I was in there like twice a week for the past like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. I finally just stopped going because I'm 22 and I'm stubborn and stupid, and I just choose not to go because I felt like I was giving them a lot of money for not a lot of relief, you know?
Right.
Which is, I know it takes time, but I figure I'll just let them calcify over and I'll just keep going. So I've rode at 2 other rodeos since then, and I'm just going to keep going till it hurts too bad, I guess.
That tends to be what stops somebody from rodeoing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what it was for me. You know, I broke my neck. I dislocated both shoulders, broke my nose enough times that it ended up straighter than after the first time. And, there's just, and you don't even like talk about the smaller injuries. You know, the toll it takes on your hands and wrists and ankles. And like that doesn't even make the list. But it got to the point for me, Emily, where I was bringing 2 bags behind the chutes with me, and one was full of, you know, my rigging, boots, spurs, chaps, all that stuff. The other was full of just like different splints and braces and like ways to, you know, mechanically immobilize different body parts and, you know, leftover stuff from all these previous injuries. And at one point I realized that these bags were the same size.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Because pretty soon the injury bag is going to be bigger than my rigging bag. So like where does this end up? And I think, you know, some people, you know, like the Billy Bowers of the world, they, you know, ride until they're old men, and other people ride until they feel like they're old.
No.
Yeah.
I already feel old. It's crazy. It's only my 2nd season, but it takes such a toll on your body, no matter if you cover or not. Yeah. Because you're getting a whiplash about every time until you get that head under control, and then everything else hurts too. So, I mean, no matter what you're doing, you're damaging your body in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Josie, have you hunted your whole life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hunted my whole life.
Yeah.
That's all I can talk about. I'm just talking about hunting.
Yeah. What do you like about hunting?
Probably the freedom. It's nice. You get out there and, I mean, don't hear a noise. You know, no city life, no lights. So, yeah.
Do you prefer archery?
Yeah.
Why?
I've just done it my whole life.
Yeah.
Since I could hunt, I've been doing archery. So.
You grew up here?
No, I actually grew up in the valley also.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we would travel up here and hunt every year. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oregon is an interesting one for archery because if you wanted to hunt every year, that was the only way to do it. Because the rifle tags took many, many years to draw, but you could put in for the rifle tag, and for the longest time, if you didn't draw it, you could just buy your archery tag. Now you have to put in for archery as well, but there's still a lot more available. I think because of that, this state has accidentally produced some really tremendous bow hunters. And if you compare it to some of the southern western states where people are only hunting elk, for example, maybe every 15 or 20 years, how do you gain experience when you can only do it 2 or 3 times in your life. You know, it's tough. Whereas, you know, Oregon, Idaho, people are hunting with their bows every year, and then, you know, some of them would rotate out and they'd get that rifle tag every 6 or 7 years and go do that and then go back to archery. And some people are like, you know what, bow hunting's where it's at for me. Yeah. I always like err on the side of lethality, right? So if they would let me, I would hunt with a tank. You know? But they don't. And I don't have a tank anymore.
Yeah.
So, what bow are you shooting?
I shoot a recurve.
You shoot a recurve. Yeah. What kind?
Hoyt Satori. Yeah.
It's draw weight?
About 60 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your range?
I've had a bull at 45. Broadside. Didn't know I was there, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I can shoot like 50. I feel pretty comfortable at 50.
On a target?
On a target, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't shoot an animal at 50
with
my recurves. So
I always figure about half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can get it every single time on a target, about half that is probably your range for the real world.
Yeah, I feel like 30 would be a sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah,
I shot a buck at like 20. That was pretty easy. It was kind of like one of those weight situations, you know, and I got into the area and he just kind of fed around and I got him. So, but 30, I feel like a decent elk, you know.
Yeah.
So
there's a little bit of a time of flight issue there too, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot can happen while the arrow's in the air.
Yeah.
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 What are you shooting for an arrow?
I just shoot the Black Eagle traditional.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good arrow.
Yeah, and I think I got like I think they're shooting. I did like a test kit, you know, put the more grains up front and stuff, and I think I'm shooting around like 175 grains.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm gonna go with my broadhead. So.
What kind of broadhead do you like?
I actually prefer kudu points.
Yeah.
But
so you're using 125s with that 50 grain extension?
No, I think I might actually switch to a different broadhead that's offered in like 175 grains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kudu makes a 175 now?
I don't know if Kudu does. I want to say I seen one on their website, but there's another company called Strickland.
Yep.
Yeah.
We shot Stricklands for a long time, and I had my clients shoot Stricklands for a long time. Last year, we had one completely fold up. It like banana peeled around.
Oh, wow.
And come to find out, they had a whole batch of broadheads that they hadn't heat treated the steel properly on. So the steel was all mild. And they hadn't recalled those. So I'm done with that. I can't. I've got a real zero failure mentality on this stuff. You should check out Cayuga. Have you heard of them?
No, maybe actually.
They're Australian.
I haven't seen. I think I've seen something on it, but I haven't really dove into it yet. Yeah.
I've shot those personally for, 5 or 6 years now. Zero failures, and man, crazy it is as it is. I won a hunt that's coming up this fall in Australia on a raffle ticket.
Oh, wow.
And they had 3 hunts available. So they picked 3 raffle ticket winners. And one was for water buffalo. One was for bantang, which is a wild feral cattle. And the other was for pigs. And I was the 3rd raffle ticket drawn. Robbie from Blood Origins calls me up. He's like, "Hey man, you want to go to Australia?" I was like, "So bad." He's like, "Well, you know, you won this pig hunt." I was like, "Man, do I want to go all the way to Australia for pigs?" Heck yeah, I do. Like, that sounds great. Let's do it. And it turns out it's with Cayuga Adventures that makes this Cayuga broadhead. And I was like, "Oh, how cool is that?"
Yeah.
So I start talking to these guys. And they're like, "Well, is there anything else you want to do while you're here?" And I was a little bit embarrassed to even say it, but I was like, what I've really wanted is a water buffalo. Like, that's something that I've like dreamed of for a long time. I'd previously bought a ticket to go to Australia for the summer of 2020. to hunt water buffalo, but they were closed with COVID for a couple years, and lost all the money for that ticket. And I was like, yeah, I'm really excited to come down and hunt pigs with you, but I did want water buffalo. And this guy was like, well, easy. Just fly into Darwin and we'll go hunt water buffalo, and then we'll drive 3,000 kilometers across northern Australia, and then we'll go hunt pigs.
Nice.
It's like sick. Yeah. And there's a lot of great people, great fans in Australia that listen to this show. And another one was Ben Solaris, and he heard I was coming, and he's like, oh, I'll come up and meet you. We'll go out and we'll go spearfishing on the Great Barrier Reef. And it's like, this is awesome. Like this is going so well. But you should check those out. They're really reasonably priced. They come in 6-packs, which I also appreciate. And they're a single piece of metal. They're single bevel, and everything that we've shot with them, we get good solid pass-throughs. It crushes bone like it got hit with a split and maul. They're just awesome.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah. I'll send you a link or something too, so you don't have to remember. But yeah, love those guys. Yeah, so I've been shooting my bow a lot, getting ready for that. And, I was just down at the shop, Alpine Archery here today, and got a new D-loop put on because I'd kind of worn out my old D-loop. And
John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's such a stud.
Yeah.
He's so honest.
He's very honest.
He's like the world's worst salesman.
He's straight up with everything.
Yeah. And it can even, sometimes it'll be like something that's in his shop, and it'll be like, don't buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know why we have it.
And you want to talk about RBF, like John's got that for sure. But I mean, the guy knows archery so well. He's such an incredible bow mechanic, and he's really good at working with people. And I mean, I've shot and competed in archery now for like 33 years, I think, and I still get lessons from John every year. He's great. So that's where I go to get my bow worked on. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm excited for this year.
You're ready for September, huh?
Well, I'm going to be guiding in September for the first 3 weeks, and then I'll go straight from archery camp and guiding elk to Australia.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still get a call in bulls, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get the good part.
Yeah.
I get to call them in. I get to cut them up. I get to blood trail them, and then do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the life right there.
Have you ever done any guiding?
No, I've never done any guiding. I'm too selfish. I like my own hunting.
It's really different from hunting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people make the mistake, and they think that guiding is going to be like more hunting, but they're totally different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I didn't really want to bring in like that business aspect to it, because
you can ruin it.
Yeah. And I really enjoy September. I've taken like the month off for 5-6 years and just camp out by myself, and so which I just like calling elk. So I told her I'll call for her until she gets one. So
yeah, he's gonna guide for me.
I'm kind of
I'm gonna try to call one in for him, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
She's been practicing.
I've been practicing, but I scare him off when we stop on the side of the road. So I don't know.
Well, maybe
it's pretty bad.
Might have something to do with like that vehicle aspect.
Yeah, well, kind of. Could just be me.
What reed are you using?
What's that?
It's
new?
The Rocky Mountain Game Calls. I forget what it's called. It's kind of got like a
shorter metal piece to it.
Yeah, a shorter top to it. Fits her mouth better. She can't quite seem to get the
I can't really get the
long
other ones
piece
at all.
ones down.
Everybody's mouth is different.
Yeah. I think it's the lisp. It screws me over here.
Oh,
tongue-tie type of thing.
I don't know about that, but I do know that you should probably never use a reed just because it works for somebody else. That'd be like me saying, you know what, this is a really great boot. You should try my boot. Like, well, your foot's a different size.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work for
True.
you. Yeah. Well, calling elk is fun. Yeah. We are spoiled by having that species as just like part of our lives, part of our daily lives. And elk is just part of the DNA here. It's kind of interesting. You go to other places, and it might be whitetail, it might be bass, it might be turkeys, it could be something else, moose. But here, everything is elk. Like, things are named after elk. It's what we eat. It's what we build our jobs and our lives around.
That's why I moved up here.
Yeah.
When I did.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? I'm young. I'm going to start hunting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, because we'd make the trip, but it's usually, you get some time off work on the weekends or something. But I wanted to be here all the time. What's
the longest time you've hunted by yourself without coming to town, seeing somebody else?
Without seeing someone else, probably a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you start getting a little bit woodsy, a little bit goofy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of eventually you just kind of get used to your own self. You're just like, man, I'm a weird.
Like, oh, man.
You just start accepting it, and it works out. But yeah, I mean, when you're not getting an elk, it kind of you really start getting like that. But
yeah. For me, about day 5 by myself, that's when I start being like, oh, man, I just kind of forgot how to function around other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you do come back to town, you're like, oh, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah,
you start feeling pretty weird after a while.
Yeah. I think it was 2 years ago. I'd guided for, I think, like 16, 17 days straight. So, I mean, I was around clients and other guides. It wasn't like I was isolated, but I was definitely, like, in the woods the whole time around, not a big group of people. And then a lot of the day was being real quiet and working elk and doing that kind of thing. And then I had a wedding in Vegas. So I went straight from archery camp to Vegas, which is like stepping into the Jetsons. It's like the future, I watched a robot zoom past me on the sidewalk delivering food to somebody. Everything's lit up. And, I was so disoriented by everything. And then I was there for 48 hours or less and then straight back to the woods again. And it's just like a relief,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that you can really get, like, to me, it's like I feel once a year I kind of get that, relief from what's going on everyday life. So
since you're used to hunting by yourself so much, what's your plan to kind of making that transition to hunting with your partner?
I mean, I've hunted with people my whole life. Usually it used to be me and my dad, so he'd always call for me, and I'd call for him every once in a while. But
now we're talking about Emily here.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a different game.
I mean, I've been talking her through it. I showed her the elk fevers, so we've been watching those.
Uneducated.
Yep. She's got pink strings on her bow now, so
I like that.
All new camo.
She got her first kuyu.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, and I mean, my plan is if she can't call by season, I'm just gonna give her the rake and shed and say, go to town.
Yeah, I mean that's a deadly sound.
That's my secret, is the rake and shed.
And it's a lot harder to screw up too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you said shed. And I'm willing to talk about this because I've talked about it on the show before. But I see people rake with their bugle tubes, rake with sticks. Let's think about this a little bit. Right? Think about the nuance that an elk can hear and understand with those big ears. They can tell the difference. Not only are they hearing a sound and being like, oh, that's another cow elk, but they're recognizing that cow elk as an individual. Like, that's Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So something that can hear that well, significantly better than we can, you don't think they can tell the difference between the sound that a stick makes raking against wood versus an antler?
Mm-hmm.
Like, get real.
Since I've started using it, I think about 5 years ago, I've been carrying it. I mean, that's my one thing I take. Sometimes I'll forget my bow, but I'll have that shed on my pack.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, I'm not kidding, I've called in probably 40% more bulls since I've started using that shed.
It's a really aggressive sound to an elk, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're within a specific distance of a bull and you rake, that's very offensive to that bull.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of got to do something about it. I've got scars all over my hands from from the days when I used to use sticks, because you've got to get after it, and these sticks are breaking and stabbing you, and you're bleeding all over the place. But yeah, when I went to a shed, and I'll usually grab like a 3-point or 4-point shed, like a raghorn, and I cut the tines off of it, and I wrap the base of it in parachute cord, and then stuff that thing on the side of my pack, and it's deadly.
Yeah.
Absolutely deadly.
I think it's honestly the best tool. I've called in bulls just sitting there raking midday.
Yep.
And not making any other sounds, just raking with that shed. And, I mean, I'll get into a spot and just start raking, then all of a sudden lights up. And it's like, you can call. There's been times I'll go in an area and I'll call, bugle, do a couple cow calls, and then I won't hear anything, and I'll sit down, eat something, bust out that raking shed and go to town on stuff, and I'll have bulls start bugling.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty nice.
I've had them a lot of times too, man, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, where the bugle that you hear from them is pretty darn close. Like the first time they make a sound, it's like, ooh, knock an arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. I love elk hunting. I think that's cool.
What other elk hunting advice do you have for the people?
Well, everybody says people call too much, but I call all the time. I mean, I'm always bugling, and
elk make a lot of sound.
Yeah, they're noisy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you see these people that, oh, you're calling too much and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, you can sound good. I think they kind of know, what people sound like. Like the average person bugling out there doesn't sound very good. So, I mean, you should probably just check yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that you can make too many of the right sound, too much of the right sound. But making the wrong sound, there's a very small margin on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes I'll tape up the zippers and stuff to anything, and I mean, I think that when you bring in like that, outside element, just a ting on a metal or something, even a stick on your bow, like a stabilizer or something, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, those foreign sounds really stick out. Zippy fabric, a lot of these corduras and nylons and synthetics, they make a real foreign noise that sticks out a lot. I think a lot of people are probably too sneaky around elk, too. Mm-hmm. Like, the only things that are quiet around elk mean them harm. So if they hear sneaky sounds, that's something that they're really going to key in on. Whereas if they kind of hear, like, bold, almost clumsy sounds, that's a lot less alarming to elk. Mm-hmm. As long as it's, like, rocks or sticks. I will say pine cones are a problem. Because elk don't step on pine cones unless they're running away. If they're just walking, they don't do it. So if you step on a big crunchy pine cone with your freaking Kenetrek that is the loudest boot on the planet, that's a problem. Yeah.
I always roll rocks when I'm in close or something. I'll roll a rock, and I mean, you know how they are.
Yep.
And when I'm walking, sometimes I'll kick the toes of my boots, so it sounds like hooves or something. So, I make noise all the time when I'm out there. It's just kind of, you got to pay attention.
I'll try to be quiet, and he's like, why are you walking like that? You got to walk loud. Elk aren't quiet.
Yeah, they're really not. They can be. They're certainly capable of it, and they will try and sneak up on you, especially like before September 10th. Those first 10 days of September, they can be a little bit slithery, but from like the 10th or 11th on, they're pretty much never quiet anywhere they're going. Bulls in particular. Yeah.
I like that early hunting.
Do you?
Yeah. To me, there's more bulls willing to come in, and you might have to work them a little bit, but yeah. I mean, you get a lot of action in the later part of the season, but it seems like you're just kind of chasing them, at some point. unless you know the area real well. It's kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about every year, but most of the place that I guide on is burned. And I had it on lock. You know, I knew the place and the elk so well that I, in a lot of ways, had stopped learning as much as I had, especially in the early years. But now the deck's been reshuffled. You know, it burned up.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be elk on it.
Oh, yeah.
But they are going to act differently. And I'm so excited to just have the challenge of, like, being a good hunter again and figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I switched to recurve, just because, I mean, compound, it's fun, but it just kind of, I just like that challenge of the recurve, you know.
Yeah.
I like chasing them big mature bulls, too, so sometimes it's just a challenge. I mean, last year I chased a bull for it was 5 days, you know, just working back and forth, you know, and kind of cat and mouse. I'd get up real early, get up to the spot, see if I could pinpoint him, you know, and then I'd figure out which direction I was going to go in on. And so they're just, I mean, they don't mess up. They don't make a mistake. So it's kind of.
Not the ones that stay alive.
No.
Yeah.
No. So those big mature bulls, you know, it's just, they're at the top of their game. So, you know, you take one of them down and it's kind of, yeah, it's nice.
Do you like how they taste?
I'll put up with it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really honest way to come at it.
Yeah.
You know, old ruddy bulls are about as bad as elk can taste, right? But it's not that bad.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that bad.
But you know, for me personally, like I'll guide big bulls during archery season, and then I'll go pick up my rifle and shoot a 2-year-old cow. You know, so I get it all. Like I get all the fun of chasing these big bulls and playing the great game. But yeah, when it comes to dinner time, I want a young cow or a young bull.
Yeah.
Spike bulls, I think, are some of the best meat in the world. You know?
I told her, I said, well, this year I'm hunting with my recurve the whole time, so I told her if a spike walks in or I see a spike, I think I'm going to take it down, because I've never shot an actual, spike, you know. So I've always just kind of passed them up, I don't want to shoot that. So,
they're gourmet. Buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
You might not go back.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's another animal that I really grew up on was spike bulls, because we could get that rifle tag over the counter. So if you were still working in September, or you weren't going to have that time off, didn't have time to train up with your bow, you could buy that spike tag. So I ate a lot of spike meat growing up, and that's really kind of what I thought elk was like spike or cow meat. You know, that's what I'd eaten the most of. And the first time I killed a big bull, I was so excited, had all this meat, and I was like, ooh. It's more work chewing on this than it was packing it out. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, though, you know, just the experience to me and them horns. I mean, I'm not like a big horn hunter. It's just, I just like that experience and usually the bigger rack comes with it. So, yeah.
Well, where can people follow along in the elk hunting and bronc riding and hair cutting adventures of Emily and Josie?
Probably on my Instagram, huh?
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're going to start posting more with it. We got little mics and stuff, mic up for when we're just trotting around and doing things and
cool.
See what we can do with it.
So what's the Instagram?
_ Hembree, HEMBREE. It's nothing fancy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you've got some great bronc riding pictures on there.
Yeah. When they get me on the horse, yeah.
Well, gotta
Not falling off.
Start closing that shutter when the chute opens. You know.
Yeah. No shit. No joke. No joke.
You're doing great. I want you to take care of yourself, though. All right.
Yeah.
Don't push those injuries so far that you can't have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Got to be able to walk, so.
Yeah, got to be able to walk, and I still need good haircuts.
Yeah.
And I want you hunkered over there.
Yeah. Slipped. Sorry about it.
Yeah. Oh, hope you wanted a 0 all the way to the top.
All the way up there, buddy. All the way.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much, and really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you have a wonderful Wonderful hunting season. Look forward to seeing what you can turn up.
For sure. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
I just want to take a second and thank everyone who's written a review, who has sent mail, who's sent emails, who's sent messages. Your support is incredible. And I also love running into you at trade shows and events and just out on the hillside when we're hunting. I think that that's fantastic. I hope you guys keep adventuring as hard and as often as you can. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and was digitized by Celia Harlander. Original music was written and performed by Justin Hay, and the Six Ranch podcast is now produced by Six Ranch Media. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the show, and I look forward to next week when we can bring you a brand new episode.